Hello and welcome to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. This podcast is all about our journey into the woods of ourselves, getting to know who we are, where we are, and where we're going in life so that we can create the life that we want to live. It's about deepening your connection with yourself, taking inspired action, and really trusting yourself and your intuition. It's also about mindset. Our beliefs are such an important part of this journey, and there are so many ways for us to change our mindset so that we can more easily live a life of expansive joy. This podcast is also about going literally into the woods and spending time in nature, and how that can help us on our own personal journey of self-knowledge. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now let's get into this week's episode. Hello, adventurers, and welcome to the Into the Woods podcast, episode 484. This is your host, Holly Worton, and I'm back with another solo episode. Today, I'm talking about something seasonal that's relevant not just to today, which is the 31st of October, but this time of year. So this is a great time of year to be looking back at what we've done, looking back at our adventures, and thinking about what adventures we want to have in the coming year and what we want to experience in the coming year. This period of time, October 31st to November 2nd, is a pagan tradition, and it's celebrated in many parts of the world in many different cultures. But here in this part of the world where I live, it's called Samhain, and it's kind of the origin of Halloween. So the theory is that the veil of time is lifted, or the veil between the worlds is lifted, and we have access to the other world. It's also a time of honoring our ancestors. And the idea is that after this 3-day period, we return to everyday life, but in a new cycle of activity. So essentially, it's the start of a new year or new cycle. Samhain is the first of 3 ceremonies of the winter months. So we've got Alban Arthan, which is the winter solstice, Imbolc, which is at the start of February, and then from there we move out of winter and into spring. So this is not going to be an episode about pagan holidays. It is going to be an episode about New Year. And I know a lot of people don't see this as the New Year, but I do. And even if you don't, it's a great time to start thinking about what you want to be experiencing in the new year, even if you do consider the new year to be end of December, beginning of January. So, as I said, this is a great time to review your year and get ready for a new cycle. So, how to do this? One thing you can do is start by thinking about what adventures did you originally plan for this year. Now, I originally planned to do the Coast to Coast in May, and that was always really iffy. I really wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do that, and in the end, I did. I was planning to do my kickboxing grading in June, which I was pretty confident about until I realized there was no way I was going to be ready for it. I also planned to do the North Downs Way 100 race in August, which I realized fairly early on in the year that wasn't going to happen. I just wasn't preparing for it properly. And I couldn't handle preparing for 2 big physical goals in 1 year. Another thing I wanted to do is get back into my monthly camping trips. So towards the end of last year, I was creating kind of my own 4-day weekends and usually taking off a Friday and a Monday and going to my favorite place to camp and camping. And that really made a big difference in my mental health last year. And it's just one of my favorite things, and it's something I really love. So those were the adventures that I planned for this year. The next question is, what adventures did you actually have this year? And for me, out of those 4 big things, I did one. I did the Coast to Coast in May with my 2 friends, and that was it. So the next question is, what adventures were you not able to have? So that's everything else. I wasn't able to do my kickboxing grading in June. However, I am planning to grade in December. It's the first weekend in December, so fingers crossed that will go well. The North Downs Way 100, I was not able to have it, and I have not signed up for it next year. Everything is kind of pinned on this kickboxing grading. If I pass, then I will focus more on running next year. If I don't pass, then I'm just going to have to keep trying. So I'm not signing up for anything new. I was also not able to have my monthly camping trips. In fact, I don't remember the last time I went camping. I think it was on the Coast to Coast in May, which means that in June, July, August, September, and October, I did not go camping. That makes me really sad. Which leads me to the next question. How do you feel about your year of adventures? So on the one hand, the coast to coast was really fantastic. I loved it. It was my first 2-week adventure, like 2-week walking trail. I really, really loved it. It was the first time that I camped instead of staying at B&Bs. I loved that. And I think that's definitely changed how I'm going to be walking long distance trails in the future. It was great. It was really fantastic. Like I said, I wasn't 100% sure I was going to be able to do it. So I was really, really grateful that I could. It was fantastic. However, I'm feeling a bit adventure deprived. I think in the back of my mind, I really wanted to do a second long distance trail this year in September. That wasn't kind of an official plan, but in the back of my mind, I wanted to. Grading didn't happen when I planned. Didn't run any races this year, and I haven't been running much. I've been running like once a week, and I really miss that. And I really miss the camping. So I'm just feeling adventure deprived right now. And a couple of weeks ago, when I volunteered for the Autumn 100 race, which I think I mentioned on an episode here, I was basically I manned an aid station in the morning, and then I was marshalling. So I was standing at the eastern end of Grimm's Ditch all day from like noon until 8 p.m., and I loved it. Like I was literally just standing in the woods, talking to runners and walkers and letting them know about the event and to be careful of each other. And it felt so good. And I guess you could call it an adventure because I'd never done that before, but it feels a bit small compared to all the things that I wanted to do and haven't done. But that gave me the clear kind of perspective that I'm feeling adventure deprived because that was such a great day. And I do love volunteering for races, but I don't know, I just got really excited about just standing in the woods all day. So I think I need some adventures. I went for a run today and it just really kind of cemented the idea that I need to spend more time outdoors, and I'm not doing that as much as I'd like. And the reason for that is because I've been focusing on kickboxing, which is an indoor activity. So, next question. What does your ideal year of adventure look like? If you had, unlimited time, money, whatever, what would that look like? Like, what would you like to do? And this is something that I journal about a lot. So, my basic ideal year of adventure is monthly camping trips because I really, really like them, except perhaps maybe not in the summer months just because campgrounds are a bit busy in the summer, or maybe I could do wild camping in the summer months. Quarterly long walks. This is something that I've kind of been journaling about for years. I would love to do a long distance trail every quarter. So 4 times a year, that would be great. Even if it's like a shorter trail, like the Way South Path or the Downs Link, and then a couple of longer ones, I really think that would be very satisfying. I'd be very happy with that. Maybe 1 or 2 races a year, depending on how that fits into my other things. And then monthly trips to Avebury and Glastonbury. It's been ages since I've been to either of those places. I was in Glastonbury in June for the summer gathering for my Druid order. Avebury, I don't remember the last time I was there. But there was a time a few years ago when I was making monthly trips to those places. So I was alternating between the two. So one month I'd go to Avebury, the next month I'd go to Glastonbury, and then I'd go to Avebury. And so I was alternating back and forth. And that was a very kind of satisfying, enriching time for me because the Avebury trips were often just a day trip. Sometimes I'd stay overnight. I think this was actually before I discovered that B&B where I was staying a lot during the year that I was researching my tree book. So it was sometimes a day trip, sometimes I'd stay overnight. But those are 2 places that are really, really important to me. I really love the energy in those places, and I've not been getting enough of that. So those are my reasons. So what does your ideal year of adventure look like? Next, what's reasonable? Because that ideal year isn't reasonable for me right now. So ask yourself, can you actually have your ideal year? If so, what do you need to do to make it happen? And if that ideal year isn't possible, then what are your priorities out of that list? So looking at that list of mine, monthly camping trips, quarterly long walks, 1 to 2 races, monthly trips to Avebury and Glastonbury, that's not reasonable for me. I recently had a major lifestyle change. So after 23 years of being self-employed, I'm now in a full-time office-based job. So my life is very, very different right now. So that means that, I can't just take 4-day weekends when I want or take off to do long walks 4 times a year. Races are easier because those are on the weekends. Monthly trips to Avebury and Glastonbury might be possible, but really I'm just so exhausted that I'm trying to save the weekends to just rest. So I don't know what the next year is going to look like, but it's probably going to be pretty basic. So I think I'm going to have to really make sure I do at least one little adventure every month. I'm really having to dial things back right now, so I have no idea what my year of adventure is going to look like. And I'll probably make a plan and then adjust that plan as I go. So taking all of this into consideration, like what you think is reasonable, what do you want your upcoming year of adventure to look like? So for me, as I said, ideally, I would like more camping trips. I would like at least one long walk, at least one race. But that's really going to depend on how I feel in terms of energy, because this has been a really difficult transition for me. That's all I'll say right now. It's been a major lifestyle change, and I'm really feeling the lack of freedom. So while I know that adventures are important to me, I think I'm going to be doing more mini adventures and really just encouraging myself to run more and do that kind of thing, either on the weekends or even in the evenings. I have kind of plotted a route to run from the office back home, which is about 35 kilometers. So that's not something that I can do all the time, but I might kind of do like a halfway run and then get a ride home from there, or every once in a while run all the way home. I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to have to be creative because I have a lot less free time than I used to have. So what do you want your upcoming year of adventure to look like? Taking into consideration the fact that you may or may not be able to have your ideal year of adventure. And hopefully you can. I mean, I think it would be great if you could have your ideal year of adventure. So if you can, definitely make that happen. But it helps to plan this out, or at least brainstorm or journal about what you want your ideal year to look like so that you can make it happen. So looking at your upcoming year of adventure based on what you've come to at this point, how do you feel about this? Are you satisfied with this? Would you like more? Would you like less? How does this plan meet your needs? So for me, again, as I've said, I would like more adventure, but I also really value rest now. So I'm going to have to balance that need for adventure with the need for rest. And I'm going to have to constantly be checking in with myself to see whether I can kind of push the boundaries and do some more adventures or what I need. So that leads into my next suggestion. Check in with yourself on a regular basis. Could be quarterly, it could be monthly, it could be weekly, whatever works for you. Are you having the adventures that you want? Do you want more adventures? Do you want fewer adventures? How can you change your plan to meet your needs? So this year, you all know how I changed my plans. I had to pick one of my big goals. I had North Downs Way 100 in August. I had the kickboxing grading. I had to pick one, and I picked kickboxing. So you may have to pick one big goal or just kind of narrow it down, or you may be able to expand. So it's important to check in with yourself and see what your capacity is like. How is your plan working? Do you need to change your plan? And then adjust as needed. So this is going to be another super short episode. I actually got really good feedback on my other short episode from a couple weeks ago, which was, do you really need growth right now? That was number 482. And I've decided I'm not going to be pushing myself to do half-hour episodes. There are a lot of things I want to say that just are simple, things that I've been thinking about, things that I would like to encourage you to think about, and this is one of those things. So here we are. It's Samhain. When this is going live, it's going live on October 31st. So maybe also think about how you want to spend this day. Might be a good excuse to get out into nature. It might be a good excuse to go to a Halloween party, or, if you've got kids, take them trick-or-treating, or whatever is right for you. And it's a great time also to remember your ancestors and to honor your ancestors. And so if you do any kind of ceremony or anything like that, it can be a good time of year to do that. So that's all for this week. I hope you found this episode interesting and useful, and I hope it inspires you to start considering your plans for the next cycle of adventures. And, I'm a big planner. I've written a book called The Year You Want, which is basically very much like this episode in the sense that it asks you tons of questions about your previous year and what you want, helps you determine what you want to experience in the new year. So I'm a planner. I like getting clear on what I want to experience because I found that's the only way I can make it happen. If I go into a year just not knowing what I want, then I'm just going to kind of not do anything. So happy planning to you. I hope you find it really useful to look at your year of adventures and plan your new ones. Next week's episode, I am back with a guest. I will be talking with Marie-Pierre Tremblay about how to go after big dreams and adventures even when you think it's possible. So that's super complimentary to this week's episode, and hopefully it will help you to dream big. So we talk about Marie's experience on the Pacific Crest Trail. We talk about how she overcame fears to make it happen because she didn't think she could do it. She didn't think she could have that big adventure, and then she did. So we also discuss how you could overcome fears and blocks that might be holding you back from attempting to achieve your dreams. So that's all for now. Remember to visit hollywharton.com/484 for the show notes on this episode, and happy trails to you. Thanks so much for listening to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for topics that were discussed, at hollywharton.com. That's HOLLYWORTON.com. If you'd like to connect with other listeners and get support on your journey, I would love for you to join my private community on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next week.